So none of these people were in the room when Trump bombed Iran. This is who was in the room early morning, February 28th, when the Iranian bombing campaign began. Marco Rubio, who is our Secretary of State, he's also the National Security Advisor. He took Waltz's job after Waltz got fired. And to Trump's right is this douchebag, the director of the CIA, John Douchebag Radcliffe. That's actually his middle name. He comes from the douchebag family. Now, John Douchebag Radcliffe served as Director of National Intelligence for a year during the first Trump administration. And Susie Wilds, Trump's White House Chief of Staff, was also in the room. Noticeably absent was Pete Hegseth. Now, we're told Hegseth was somewhere in the vicinity, but Trump refused to release any photos of the Mar-a-Lago Situation Room that included Pete Hegseth. He didn't want Hegseth to be seen in the Situation Room. What do all of these people in the Mar-a-Lago Situation Room on February 28th have in common? Not a single one of them served in the military. Susie Wilds, Chief of Staff, Donald Trump, Marco Rubio, and the director of the CIA, John Radcliffe. No military experience whatsoever. This is one of the official photos from that morning, February 28th. Susie Wilds, Marco Rubio, Trump, and Radcliffe. No military experience. What happened to that team of veterans that were going to advise Donald Trump to keep us out of those forever wars? The only veteran, the only person with any military experience in the room was General Dan Cain, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. All you had to do to be in that room was not serve in the military, except for Dan Cain, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. And the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, according to Bob Woodward, doesn't know that much. It's kind of an honorarium. You're not really in charge of the military. You're kind of just overseeing it. Dan Cain, he was in the private sector. He came out of the private sector, and he was a general, went into the private, and then he came back to be the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff. He's been out of the loop for years, and just because you're, believe it or not, according to Bob Woodward, at least according to Bob Woodward, being chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff doesn't mean you're in the loop. So all you had in the room the day we launched our attacks on Iran were the big thinkers, the big picture people with no concern or understanding of the picture on the ground. And that includes the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, Dan Cain. He's a newbie. He returned to the military. It's not good. Now, generals are very good at making promises. But to his credit, I will give General Dan Cain credit. He warned Trump repeatedly, don't go into Iran. We don't have enough munitions, and we can't do this alone. We need our allies. And yet, after Trump ignored him, he seems to have Colin Powelled the Iranian war the same way Colin Powell, well-respected general, one of the most respected people in America in 2003 when George W. Bush launched his illegal invasion of Iraq. Colin Powell, Secretary of State, he could have stopped the invasion of Iraq. Colin Powell. All he had to do was resign as Secretary of State. Didn't do it. Instead, he decided to be a loyal foot soldier and go to the UN and lie about Iranian weapons of mass destruction. And he knew, Colin Powell knew he was lying. Colin Powell served in Vietnam. He knew what war smelled and tasted like. Not Dick Cheney, not George W. Bush. Colin Powell could have done the honorable thing and quit, and there would have never been an invasion of Iraq. Joe Kent quit. He did on Tuesday, but he's not Colin Powell. And nobody knew who Joe Kent was until he quit. Dan Cain, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, he could have quit. He told Trump, don't do it. We don't have the munitions. We need our allies. He knew the Strait of Hormuz could be shut down and there was nothing we could do about it. He could have quit, but for whatever reason, loyalty to the flag, he stayed. He organized the bombing campaign or participated in this bombing campaign or briefed Trump on the bombing campaign, knowing this would end exactly the way it has. So this is why we need civilian control of our military. That's why, by law, we have civilian control of our military. It's not supposed to be run by generals who have a problem saying no to the commander-in-chief. You need, by law, a civilian to be in control, to be defense secretary. It's not supposed to be generals. It's supposed to be civilians. And you need combat veterans advising the president. But Trump doesn't like being around actual combat veterans because they remind him of his cowardice during the Vietnam War, and they know more than he does. They can ask important questions, questions that need to be asked, questions that Donald Trump doesn't even know to ask. And that's why J.D. Vance and Tulsi Gabbard, two veterans of Iraq, were not in the Mar-a-Lago Situation Room. They were relegated to the same spot as Scott Bessant, our Secretary of the Treasury, not a veteran, and Energy Secretary Chris Wright, not a veteran. So you would think Scott Bessant and Chris Wright would have been in the Mar-a-Lago Situation Room. They're not a threat to Donald Trump. They're just as ignorant about war as Donald Trump.